To me, a definition of art is something that helps us explain the meaning of reality and why we are here and what's possible being a human being in this incredible universe. I'm Scott Snibbe. I guess you'd call me an interactive artist, but I wish there were a word like an interactivist, kind of like a filmmaker or a musician, because I'm more into interactivity as a mass medium. The reason I got into interactivity so early was mostly because I had a shop at home when I was a kid and my parents were sculptors, so I started out making plastic sculptures where you'd embed little objects inside of an object about the size of an iPad and have something interactive. But when I was about 10 years old, I saw an Apple II computer. And when you buy a computer in those days, you turn it on and it's just a flashing cursor. So you'd have to do something with it. So I guess it was just the very first introduction I had to computer programming was interactive, so I just thought of it that way from the start. So just like a musician realizing, ooh, I'd like to be a rock star, but I need to learn some scales and notes and how to play an instrument. It's the same thing for me. I knew I wanted to work in this medium of interactivity and computer graphics. And in order to do that, I need to learn linear algebra and filmmaking and a little bit of science and so on. I've experimented with almost all the different types of human-computer interfaces. Some things I got really excited about in the 90s were haptics and also breath. I made a big piece called Blow Up that amplifies your breath. You blow into this little console and then it amplifies your breath very large in an exhibition hall, or in a museum, so that the thing that you thought was private, you rarely say breath without saying my breath, becomes something massively public and lets people, think about the difference between breath, wind, and the self and others. I've also worked with electromechanical haptic interfaces, motors, physical objects. But the screen is the thing that's really limitless, and obviously tons and tons of immersive interactive projections. That's kind of the medium I started around 1997. So this was actually my first piece back in 1997 that used your body as an interface. It's a piece called Boundary Functions, and it shows you your personal space. The space is closer to you than to anybody else. But the thing the piece reveals is that you actually don't have any personal space until other people come around. So it conveys this idea I try to convey in a lot of my work about interdependence. That your personal space is actually something that's only defined by others and that changes without your control. So I was a little scared working with James Cameron because I've heard he's quite demanding. However, when we actually showed him this piece, he was really excited because it actually is a technology that they just imagined in the movie and they have to bring to life with special effects, whereas here you can actually experience it directly and immediately. There you go. Each of the blocks is a different type of concept art that was developed for the film. So we put down the Navi and we see all about the Navi. Here we go. We can see the concept art of how they developed these characters and later the three-dimensional models. You can play a video, see her moving around. And then this one is a Viper Wolf, so about the animals from the film and how they were conceived. When I first saw a computer, what I saw is that's a movie screen. You could make anything happen on that screen. And using logo and tools like that, you had that kind of freedom that you were limited only by your mind and what you could put on a two-dimensional plane. But once they started with this desktop and Windows metaphor, then everybody thinks the computer is a desk. No wonder people thought it was stupid for so long. But now I think we understand that, and especially with devices like the iPad, they've restructured the whole interface so that it is a cinematic interface. The whole language is the language of cuts, dissolves, wipes, transitions, and a full screen immersive experience that could be anything from totally abstract to totally representational. Biophilia is a unique project. Bjork's collaboration is very, very rigorous, and she came with a very clear script, and she said, come to me with some ideas about how to visually and interactively interpret the story that I'm giving you. The thing about pure programming is that you're only limited by your mind. So things like apps have this special aspect to them because you don't need anything physical. You're only limited by your ability, your imagination, and your technical ability. One thing Bjork said was that she didn't want any human scale in the project. It was everything but the human scale. So obviously my imagination was going everywhere except the body. It's a challenge because there's no faces, it's kind of hard for a cell to express emotion. I would give her storyboards and then she would either approve and say, oh great, which was like, I love it, which is terrific. Or sometimes she'd say, let me think about it, which I found out means hell no. The app that we're most proud of in Biophilia is Virus. The way we tied it into the song is still interesting too, because what happens is the song advances and it seems like the song is just playing and the interactivity goes independently. However, what happens is it's a kind of anti-game because you can save the cell that's being attacked by these viruses by pushing the viruses away. However, if you do that, the song gets stuck in an instrumental loop. So you're only 2 verses in, and then you get into this instrumental loop and you realize that, oh, I have to lose this game so that I can hear the whole song. So then you let the whole thing proceed. You see how a viral infection proceeds in this kind of virus fatale story. A lot of people say we're entering what you call the post-gatekeeper world, where you don't have to convince anyone your idea is good before you do it. There are ways for people to get any idea, however weird, out into the world, and if it's successful, they can reach 100 million people in a few days. Because you can get funding for literally any idea, including interactive art, like what I do. All we have to do is make it, put it out into the store. So I think you see, in terms of relationship to science and culture, especially education, I think what you're going to see is a real explosion in experiences like Biophilia that are uncategorizable. They combine education, science, music, entertainment seamlessly.